Welcome back to Midnight Wanderer. It is so good to have you here with us again, finding a quiet moment at the end of your day. Have you ever sat in a quiet room with a houseplant, or leaned against the trunk of a great tree and wondered what it is truly doing in the silence? We see them as still, silent and passive things, but what if that stillness is simply a different kind of life, moving on a timescale so slow, so patient, that we cannot perceive it? Tonight, we're going to gently adjust our own inner clocks and step into the secret living world of plants and trees. We will explore the quiet things they do when we are not looking, not as a complex science lesson, but as a peaceful journey into a different kind of awareness. There is nothing you need to do, nothing to remember. You have my full permission to let go of the day, to release the weight of your thoughts, and to simply float on the sound of my voice. As we prepare to begin, I wonder what green and growing things live near you. Perhaps you might share in the comments what you can see from your window, a quiet hello from your corner of the natural world. And if you find a sense of peace in these quiet explorations, a gentle like helps other curious minds find their way to this tranquil space too. Now, find your most comfortable position. Let your body feel heavy and supported, and let us begin our journey into the silent green world. Our journey begins not with a sound, but with a shift in our perception. We're tuning our senses to a quieter, slower frequency, the frequency of the plant world, where an entire lifetime can unfold in a single, patient breath of seasons. We live our lives in a rush of seconds, minutes, and hours. Our world is one of movement, of swift action and reaction. And in this world, it is so easy to see plants as simple, silent decorations. A tree is a piece of living architecture. A flower is a splash of temporary colour. A houseplant is a quiet green companion that asks for little more than water and light. But this perception is born from the profound difference between our timescale and theirs. What if their stillness is not emptiness, but a state of deep and patient activity? Imagine time not as a rushing river, but as a vast, slow-moving glacier. We are like water striders, darting across the surface, living our entire lives in a flash of movement. Plants, however, are part of the ice itself. Their lives unfold with the slow, imperceptible, and immensely powerful rhythm of the glacier's own journey. The events of their lives, the decision to grow a new leaf, the choice to turn towards the sun, the act of unfurling a flower, are momentous, but they happen on a schedule that is almost invisible to us. To understand the secret life of plants, we must first give ourselves permission to slow down. We must let go of our own frantic pace and try to feel the world as they might. It is an invitation to witness a different kind of life, a life that is lived in the slow, graceful language of growth. This is not a life without drama or intelligence. It is a life filled with perception, communication, and a constant, quiet striving. A plant is not merely existing in a spot. It is actively interpreting its world. It is tasting the soil, feeling the wind, measuring the length of the day, and listening to the chemical whispers of its neighbours. Tonight, we will try to perceive this hidden world. We will quiet our minds and open our senses to this subtle, slow-motion ballet that is happening all around us, in our parks, in our gardens, and in the quiet pots on our windowsills. We are stepping out of our own time and into plant time, a world where patience is a superpower, and the most profound actions are the ones that unfold as slowly and as naturally as a leaf turning towards the morning sun. Every great journey begins with a single, first step. For a plant, this journey begins in the dark, silent earth, with a tiny, miraculous event: germination. A seed is a vessel of pure potential, a tiny, sleeping plant embryo, held in a state of suspended animation. It can wait for days, for years, for decades, a perfect little time capsule of life, waiting for the right moment to awaken. And this awakening is not a random act. It is a deliberate and calculated decision. The seed is listening to the world around it. It is sensing the warmth of the soil, a promise that the cold of winter has passed. It is feeling for the presence of moisture, the essential drink it will need to begin its life. And in some cases, it is even waiting for the briefest flash of light, a signal that it is close enough to the surface to make the arduous journey upwards. When all the conditions are just right, the seed makes its choice. A cascade of hormones is released, and the tiny sleeping engine of life within it sputters into action. The first thing it does is send down a root, a tiny pale anchor to grip the earth and begin the search for water, and then, with a slow and patient strength that seems impossible for something so small, it begins to push its first shoot upwards against the weight of the soil, against the darkness, reaching for a sun it has never seen, but which it knows, with an ancient and profound certainty, is waiting for it. This first silent stretch is the plant's first great act of faith, a beautiful and purposeful awakening into the world. This purposeful awakening of the seed begs a quiet question. How does a plant with no eyes, no ears, and no brain sense its world so perfectly? The answer lies in a different kind of perception, a sensitivity that is woven into the very fabric of its cells. Let us begin with light. While a plant does not have eyes, its entire body, from the tip of its shoot to its deepest leaves, is covered in millions of tiny, light-catching jewels called photoreceptors. These are specialized proteins that are tuned to different colors and intensities of light. The ones that guide a young shoot towards the sun are most sensitive to blue light. When blue light strikes one side of the stem more than the other, it triggers a hormone called auxin to move to the shaded side. This hormone then tells the cells on the dark side to grow longer. And this uneven growth is what causes the stem to bend gracefully and precisely towards the light source. It is a simple, elegant, and completely silent system of guidance. Plants also have a profound sense of gravity. This is called gravitropism. The very same root that emerges from the seed knows, without fail, which way is down. The secret to this lies in tiny, dense packets of starch within special cells in the root tip. These starch packets, like a handful of pebbles in a jar, always settle at the bottom of the cell due to gravity. The plant can feel where these packets are resting, and this tells it which way is down, guiding the root on its vital journey into the earth. And plants can feel touch, a sense called thigmotropism. A climbing vine's tendril as it grows makes a slow circular searching motion called circumnutation. When it touches a solid object like a fence post or another branch, the contact triggers a signal that tells the cells on the contact side to grow more slowly, while the cells on the opposite side grow faster. This causes the tendril to curl gracefully and firmly around the object, securing its path upwards. In all of these senses, the plant is not seeing or hearing as we do. It is feeling the world through a deep cellular chemistry, a silent internal language of hormones and proteins that allows it to navigate its world with a quiet and unerring precision. As we consider these remarkable sensory abilities, it becomes clear that we are witnessing a form of intelligence. It is not the centralized brain-based intelligence of an animal, which processes information in a single command center. Instead, a plant's intelligence is decentralized, distributed throughout its entire body. Think of a flock of birds or a school of fish. There is no single leader, yet the group moves with a beautiful, coordinated grace, each individual responding to its neighbors and its immediate environment. A plant is much the same. Every root tip, every leaf, every stem is a small center of perception and decision-making. The entire plant is a collective, a slow-motion, cooperative community of cells and tissues, all working together towards the common goals of survival and growth. This is a patient intelligence. A plant does not react in seconds. It responds over the course of hours, days, and seasons. It integrates a constant flow of information from its environment, about the light, the water, the soil, the season, and it makes slow, deliberate decisions. It decides when to unfurl a new leaf, when to send out a new root, when to conserve its energy in the face of a drought, and when to pour all its resources into creating a flower. This form of intelligence is not about thinking. It is about being. It is about being so perfectly and intimately connected to one's environment that the right response unfolds as a natural and inevitable consequence of that connection. It is a quiet, deep, and deeply wise way of navigating the world, a form of intelligence that is rooted not in speed, but in stillness, patience, and a profound and sensitive awareness of the world as it is. And so, we have opened the first door into the hidden world of plants. We have begun to adjust our own inner rhythms to their slower, more deliberate pace. We have seen that their stillness is not a lack of life, but a different and more patient kind of aliveness. We have learned that every plant is a silent and sensitive observer, constantly monitoring its world and making quiet, intelligent decisions that guide its journey. This is our gentle invitation. For the rest of our time together tonight, let us try to hold this perspective. Let us see the world through this new, slower lens. Let us appreciate the quiet and patient wisdom that is unfolding in the green world all around us. We have, until now, been focused on the parts of the plant we can see, the parts that live in the air and the light. But a plant lives in two worlds at once. Just as much of its life is lived above the ground. An equal, and perhaps even more mysterious part of its story is unfolding in the quiet, hidden darkness beneath our feet. And so, let us now take a gentle breath and allow our journey to follow the path of that first brave root as we travel down into the silent, living earth. A plant is a living bridge between the sky and the soil. Having considered its relationship with the light, we now journey downward into the dark, secret world of the roots to explore the gentle and miraculous art of drinking from the earth. The journey of a root is a silent and purposeful exploration. From the moment it emerges from the seed, it is on a quest. Guided by the unerring pull of gravity, it begins its slow, downward dance into the soil. The world it enters is a complex and challenging one. The soil is not a uniform substance. It is a three-dimensional maze of particles, of sand, silt, and clay. It is a world of obstacles like rocks and pebbles, and a world of opportunity, like pockets of moisture and channels of rich nutrients. The root must navigate this world with a blind and silent precision. It does not burrow with brute force. Instead, it grows with a gentle, probing intelligence. As the cells at its very tip divide and elongate, they push the root forward, not in a straight line, but in a winding, exploratory path. It is like a slow-motion river, flowing through the earth, seeking the path of least resistance, flowing around obstacles and towards the promise of water. The root is both an anchor and a lifeline. As it grows, it forms a deep and intricate network that holds the plant firmly in the ground, preventing it from being toppled by the wind or washed away by the rain. But more importantly, it is the plant's mouth and its stomach, the essential organ that will draw in all the water and minerals the plant will ever need to build its life. To imagine the root system of a great tree is to imagine a mirror image of the tree itself, a vast, branching, upside-down tree hidden in the earth, its total length sometimes stretching for hundreds of miles, a silent, patient, and magnificent testament to the plant's deep and intimate connection to the soil. At the very tip of each and every one of these questing roots is a structure of incredible sophistication and sensitivity. It is a tiny cluster of cells called the root cap, and it acts as the root's brain and its sensory hub. This root cap is a marvel of natural engineering. It is coated in a slimy substance called mucilage, which acts as a lubricant, allowing the root to slide more easily through the abrasive soil particles. But this slime is also a form of communication, interacting with the bacteria and fungi in the soil. creating a rich and living ecosystem around the root. The root cap is also where the root perceives the world. It contains the specialised cells with the dense starch packets that allow it to sense gravity, to know which way is down, but it can sense so much more. It can detect moisture gradients in the soil, allowing it to grow towards wetter areas and away from drier ones. It can sense the presence of essential nutrients like nitrates and phosphates, and guide the root's growth towards these vital resources. It can also sense obstacles, and it can sense the roots of other plants, both its own siblings and its competitors. It is constantly processing this stream of sensory information and making decisions. If it senses a patch of rich, moist soil, it can signal the root to slow down and produce a dense network of fine, branching rootlets to fully exploit the resource. If it senses a toxin or a patch of compacted, impenetrable soil, it can signal the root to change direction. For a long time, scientists have been so struck by the complex decision-making ability of the root tip that some have referred to it as a living brain in the soil. It is the command centre for the plant's underground exploration, a quiet and patient intelligence that is constantly mapping its world and making the crucial decisions that will ensure the plant's survival and prosperity. Once the questing root tip has found a promising source of water, the real work of drinking can begin. This work is not done by the thick, woody part of the root, but by an almost invisible, fuzzy coating of incredibly fine, delicate structures called root hairs. Each root hair is a single, elongated cell, and a healthy plant will have billions or even trillions of them, creating an immense surface area for absorption. Think of the entire root system as a great river, and the root hairs as a vast marshy delta, where that river meets the sea of the soil. It is here that the gentle physical miracle of water absorption takes place. The process is called osmosis, and it is a beautiful example of nature's quiet efficiency. The cells of the root hair contain a salty solution of sugars and minerals. This solution is saltier, or more concentrated than the water in the surrounding soil. Water has a natural tendency to move from a less salty area to a more salty area, as if it is trying to dilute it. The cell wall of the root hair acts as a perfect one-way gate, a membrane that allows water molecules to pass through but keeps the larger salt and sugar molecules trapped inside. And so, with no effort at all, water flows, silently and constantly from the soil, through the membrane and into the root hair, drawn in by this gentle physical force. It is a quiet and constant sipping, a trillion tiny straws drinking from the earth, the first step in the long upward journey of water into the plant. Once the water has been drawn into the root hairs, it begins its journey upward, a journey that seems to defy the very laws of gravity. In a tall tree, this journey can be hundreds of feet, from the deepest root to the highest leaf. The secret to this incredible feat of natural plumbing lies in a specialised network of tissues called the xylem. You can think of the xylem as a bundle of incredibly thin, long, and continuous drinking straws that run the entire length of the plant, from the tip of the root to the veins of the leaf. These straws are made from the hollow, dead remnants of cells, forming a perfect, unobstructed pipeline. But what is the force that pulls the water up these straws? It is not a pump in the roots. The engine for this silent, upward-flowing river is actually in the leaves. As we shall explore later, the leaves are constantly releasing water vapour into the air, a process called transpiration. This constant evaporation from the leaves creates a gentle, continuous tension, or a negative pressure, on the column of water in the xylem. Water molecules have a special property. They are sticky. They like to cling to each other, a property called cohesion. So, as one water molecule evaporates from a leaf, it gently pulls on the molecule behind it, which pulls on the one behind it, and so on, creating a continuous, unbroken chain of water that is pulled, silently and powerfully, all the way up from the roots. It is a silent, beautiful, and incredibly efficient system. a river of life flowing constantly upwards, powered by the sun and the thirst of the leaves. A plant does not live on water alone. The soil is also a rich repository of the essential minerals and nutrients that are the building blocks of life: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and many others. But these minerals are often present in very small quantities. The roots, therefore, cannot be passive drinkers. They must be active and discerning miners. While water flows into the roots through the passive process of osmosis, the minerals must be actively pumped into the root cells. The root hairs have specialized proteins in their cell membranes that act like tiny selective gates. These gates can recognize the specific minerals the plant needs and use cellular energy to actively transport them into the root, even when the concentration of those minerals is much higher inside the root than it is in the surrounding soil. This is a highly selective process. The plant can choose which minerals to take in and which to leave behind, ensuring it gets exactly the nutrients it needs. It is another layer of the root's quiet intelligence, its ability to taste the soil and to carefully select the perfect blend of ingredients it needs to build its leaves, its stems, and its flowers. The roots are not just drinking, they are dining, carefully and deliberately, from the rich and varied banquet of the earth. And so, as we conclude our journey into the dark, quiet world beneath our feet, let us hold a gentle appreciation for the dual life of the root system. It is, first and foremost, the plant's anchor. Its vast, branching network holds the plant in a firm and steadfast embrace with the earth, providing the stability it needs to reach for the sky. A great tree stands tall through a storm not because its trunk is strong, but because its roots are deep and wide. But the roots are also the plant's source, its fundamental connection to the sustenance of the earth. Through the patient intelligence of the root tip and the quiet thirst of 1 trillion tiny hairs, the plant draws up the water and minerals that are the very foundation of its life. It is a beautiful and perfect duality. The very same structure that provides its physical stability also provides its biological lifeblood. It is a reminder that to grow tall one must first grow deep. And now, having understood how the plant drinks from the earth, our journey will follow the path of that water, that silent river flowing upwards, into the leaves, where an even greater miracle is about to take place, the miracle of eating the sun. Having followed the journey of water up from the silent darkness of the roots, we now arrive in the sunlit, airy world of the leaves. It is here, in these delicate green structures, that the most important and magical chemical reaction on Earth takes place. This is the story of how plants eat the light. Let us take a moment to quietly observe a single leaf. We often see it as a simple, flat, green thing. But in reality, a leaf is one of the most sophisticated and perfectly designed pieces of natural technology on the planet. It is, in essence, a living solar panel. Its broad, flat shape is no accident. It is designed to maximize the amount of surface area it can expose to the sun's rays. Its thinness is also deliberate, allowing sunlight to penetrate deep into its tissues. The network of veins that we can see branching across its surface are the final, delicate tributaries of the xylem pipeline, delivering the water that has travelled all the way from the roots. And of course, its colour, green, is the colour of its most important ingredient. The green pigment is called chlorophyll, and it is this special molecule that has the unique and miraculous ability to capture the energy of a photon, a tiny particle of sunlight. A single leaf contains millions of chlorophyll molecules, all housed within tiny, specialized compartments inside the leaf cells called chloroplasts. These are the microscopic engines, the actual solar panels where the magic will happen. The entire leaf is oriented and engineered for a single quiet purpose, to be a perfect trap for the light. Many plants can even move their leaves throughout the day, a process called heliotropism, to track the sun as it moves across the sky, ensuring their solar panels are always angled for maximum efficiency. A leaf is not a passive thing. It is a living, breathing, and highly efficient factory, silently and constantly at work, performing the beautiful and essential alchemy of turning sunlight into life. Now that the stage is set, let us gently witness the process that happens within this sun-drenched leaf. The process is called photosynthesis, which simply means making things with light. It is the quiet, secret recipe that powers almost all life on Earth. The plant has gathered its three essential ingredients. The first is water, which has been delivered to the leaf by the xylem, all the way from the deep earth. The second is carbon dioxide, a gas which the leaf has drawn in from the surrounding air through tiny, microscopic pores on its surface. And the third and most magical ingredient is sunlight, which has been captured by the millions of tiny chlorophyll molecules within the leaf cells. The process happens in two gentle steps. In the first step, the light-dependent reactions, the energy of the captured sunlight is used to do something remarkable. It splits the water molecules apart. The water molecule, H2O, is broken into its component parts, hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen is a waste product for the plant and it is released back into the air. This is the source of the very oxygen that we are breathing as we rest here now. The energy from the sun is then transferred to tiny battery-like molecules, which will carry it to the next stage of the process. In the second step, the light-independent reactions, which are also called the Calvin cycle, the plant uses the energy from those tiny batteries to perform its final act of creation. It takes the carbon dioxide it has inhaled from the air and, in a complex and beautiful series of chemical reactions, it combines it with the hydrogen that was split from the water. The end result of this quiet molecular dance is a simple sugar molecule called glucose. It is a quiet and almost unbelievable miracle. The plant has taken light, water, and air, three things that are not alive, and has woven them together to create sugar, a substance that is rich in energy and is the fundamental food source for all of life. The glucose, this simple sugar, is the sweet reward for all of the leaf's patient work. It is the plant's food. It is a perfect, energy-rich molecule that will be used to power every single activity in the plant's life. It is the fuel that will be burned to power the growth of a new leaf, the extension of a root, or the defense against a pest. It is also the primary building block for the plant's body. These simple sugar molecules can be linked together in long chains to form cellulose, the strong, fibrous material that makes up the plant's cell walls, its stems, and the wood of a great tree. They can be converted into fats and oils, which are stored in seeds as a rich food source for the next generation. Or they can be stored as starch, a more stable, long-term energy reserve in the roots or tubers. This single, sweet molecule, created from sunlight in the quiet factory of the leaf, is the foundation of the plant's entire existence. It is a testament to the incredible alchemy of the natural world, a quiet and constant reminder that life's most essential substance is created not through consumption, but through a gentle and beautiful act of pure creation, a sweet reward spun from the light and the air. Once the leaves have created this precious, energy-rich sugar, it needs to be delivered to all the other parts of the plant that cannot feed themselves. The deep, dark roots need energy to grow. The strong, woody stem needs energy to support the plant. The flowers and fruits need energy to develop. To solve this logistical challenge, the plant has a second, parallel plumbing system. We have met the xylem, the silent river that carries water up from the roots. Now, let us meet the phloem. If the gillum is a one-way street for water going up, the phloem is a two-way freeway for sugar going both up and down. The phloem is a network of living cells that connects the sources, which are the places where sugar is made, like the leaves, to the sinks, which are the places where sugar is needed, like the roots or the fruits. The plant can actively load sugar into the phloem cells in the leaves. This makes the sap inside the phloem very sugary and thick. Water from the nearby xylem is then drawn into the phloem by osmosis, creating a high pressure that pushes the sugary sap along the freeway. When the sap reaches a sink, like a root cell, the plant actively unloads the sugar and the water flows back into the xylem. This elegant system allows the plant to send its energy precisely where it is needed most, a dynamic and responsive distribution network that keeps every part of the living organism nourished and healthy. It is the plant's quiet and efficient circulatory system, the sweet, pulsing heart of its internal economy. As we conclude our quiet observation of photosynthesis, let us pause to appreciate its most beautiful and generous gift. As we learned, in the process of splitting water molecules to get the hydrogen it needs, the plant is left with a byproduct that it has no use for, oxygen, and so it releases this oxygen quietly and constantly back into the atmosphere. For billions of years, the simple, silent work of photosynthetic life, from the tiniest algae in the ocean to the greatest of the forest trees, has been slowly filling our atmosphere with this life-giving gas. The very air we are breathing now, the oxygen that is sustaining our bodies as we rest, is the gentle, second-hand gift of the plant world. It is the collective exhalation of a billion green leaves, all quietly eating the sun. It is one of the most profound and beautiful connections in the web of life. Our act of breathing is inextricably and intimately linked to the plant's quiet act of feeding. Our inhale is their exhale. It is a shared breath, a silent planetary scale exchange that has been happening for eons, a gentle and constant reminder that our lives are built upon the quiet, patient and endlessly generous work of the green and growing things of this earth. I will stop here to ensure the pacing and tone of these new chapters are correct before completing the final 8 chapters. Please let me know if I should proceed. We have just witnessed the miracle of photosynthesis and its life-giving gift of oxygen. Now let us look more closely at the physical act of how a plant breathes. A quiet, rhythmic exchange with the atmosphere that is happening all around us all the time. To understand how a plant breathes, we must zoom in our quiet imagination on the surface of a leaf. To our naked eye, it appears smooth and solid. But under a microscope, its surface, particularly the underside, is revealed to be covered in thousands of tiny microscopic pores. These pores are called stomata, a Greek word meaning mouths, and that is exactly what they are. Each stoma is a tiny gateway into the leaf, a little mouth that can open and close. It is flanked by 2 specialized crescent-shaped cells called guard cells. These guard cells are like the lips of the mouth. When they are full of water, they become turgid and bow outwards, opening the pore. When they lose water, they become limp and sag inwards, closing the pore tightly. The entire surface of a single leaf can have millions of these tiny controllable mouths, and the plant can open or close them with remarkable precision. This network of stomata is the plant's primary interface with the atmosphere. It is through these tiny, invisible gateways that the plant performs the essential and delicate act of gas exchange. It is how it inhales the carbon dioxide it needs for food, and how it exhales the oxygen that we need for life. But this act of breathing is a constant and delicate balancing act. Opening these pores is essential for life, but it also comes at a great cost, a cost that we will now gently explore. The primary reason a plant opens its stomata is to breathe in the essential ingredient for photosynthesis, carbon dioxide. The air around us, as we know, is a mixture of gases, and carbon dioxide makes up a small but vital fraction of it. The inside of a leaf is a moist, spongy labyrinth of cells, and the air spaces within it are saturated with water vapour. When the plant opens its stomata, the dry outside air and the moist inside air meet. Due to the simple laws of diffusion, the carbon dioxide in the outside air, which is at a higher concentration, naturally flows from the outside through the open pore and into the air spaces inside the leaf. From there, it can be absorbed by the leaf cells and used in the quiet, sun-powered factory of the chloroplasts to create sugar. This gentle, passive inflow of carbon dioxide is the plant's quiet inhale. It is a deliberate and necessary act, the gathering of the fundamental building block of its own body. Every single carbon atom that makes up the wood of a great oak tree or the petal of a soft rose was, at one point, a free-floating molecule of carbon dioxide in the air that was gently and purposefully inhaled through one of these tiny invisible mouths. Just as the plant inhales carbon dioxide, it must also exhale the waste product of photosynthesis, oxygen. As the chlorophyll molecules in the leaf cells split water to begin the process of making sugar, they are left with an abundance of oxygen atoms. This oxygen, which is in a higher concentration inside the leaf than it is in the outside air, follows the same simple law of diffusion. It flows, passively and silently, from the moist interior of the leaf, out through the open stomata and into the surrounding atmosphere. This is the plant's quiet exhale. It is the gentle and constant gift that we have already considered, the source of the very air that we breathe. It is a beautiful and perfect symmetry. The plant breathes in the gas that we exhale, and it breathes out the gas that we must inhale to live. This quiet, complementary exchange is the most fundamental partnership on Earth. A silent, planetary-scale respiration that connects the animal and the plant kingdoms in a single, shared, and life-sustaining breath. However, there is a third and crucial part of this exchange. The act of opening the stomata to breathe comes with a great and unavoidable cost: the loss of water. The air inside the leaf is essentially at 100% humidity, completely saturated with water vapour. The air outside, unless it is raining, is almost always drier. And so, whenever the plant opens its mouths to breathe, water vapour rushes out, from the wet inside to the dry outside. This process is called transpiration, and it is like a constant, silent sigh of water vapour from the surface of every leaf. For a large tree on a warm, sunny day, this sigh can be immense. It can release hundreds of gallons of water into the atmosphere. This might seem like a wasteful and dangerous flaw in the plant's design, a constant risk of dehydration. But in reality, this transpiration is the engine that powers the entire plumbing system of the plant. As we learned, it is this constant evaporation of water from the leaves that creates the negative pressure, the gentle, continuous suction that pulls the entire, unbroken column of water all the way up from the roots through the xylem. Transpiration is the great invisible pump. It is the silent, solar-powered engine that drives the river of water within. So the plant is faced with a constant and delicate dilemma, a trade-off that botanists call the photosynthesis-transpiration compromise. It must open its stomata to get the carbon dioxide it needs to live, but every second those stomata are open, it is losing the precious water it has worked so hard to draw up from the soil. The plant is therefore in a state of constant and dynamic control, subtly opening and closing its pores to find the perfect balance between eating and drinking, a silent, lifelong act of exquisite physiological diplomacy. As we widen our focus from a single leaf to a great forest, this collective sigh of transpiration becomes a major force of nature. A large forest is like a giant, green, evaporative cooler, a natural air conditioner for the planet. The process of evaporation requires energy, and the water evaporating from the leaves draws that energy in the form of heat from the surrounding air, which has a significant cooling effect on the local climate. A forest is always cooler and moister than a nearby open field, but the effect is more than just local. The vast quantities of water vapour released by a great forest like the Amazon rainforest actually create their own weather. This water vapour rises, condenses into clouds, and then falls as rain, often hundreds or even thousands of miles downwind. The Amazon, in a very real sense, creates its own rainfall, a vast, self-sustaining cycle of moisture. The trees breathe out the water that will then fall back upon them as rain. It is one of the most beautiful and complex feedback loops on the planet. The collective, silent breath of the world's plants is not just a passive exchange. It is an active and powerful force that shapes our climate, creates our weather, and helps to keep our planet cool, moist, and alive. And so, the life of a plant is tied to a quiet, daily rhythm of breath. In the cool, moist morning, as the sun rises, the stomata open wide to take in the carbon dioxide they need for a day of photosynthesis. As the day gets hotter and drier, the plant may begin to partially close its stomata, trying to conserve water. And then, at night, in the darkness, when there is no sunlight for photosynthesis, most plants close their stomata almost completely, resting and preserving their precious water until the next dawn. This gentle, daily pulsation, this opening and closing of a billion invisible mouths, is one of the most fundamental rhythms of life on Earth. It is the planet's own slow and steady heartbeat, a quiet respiration that connects every single green and growing thing to the vast, airy ocean of the atmosphere. And it is this deep and intimate connection with the air and the light that leads us to our next quiet wonder. How a plant, with no eyes at all, can be said to see the world. A plant is not a passive object in a world of light. It is an active and sensitive participant, constantly monitoring the light around it, and using that information to guide its life. This is the story of how plants see, not with eyes, but with their entire being. Perhaps the most simple and familiar evidence of a plant's relationship with light is the gentle and quiet way a houseplant on a windowsill will, over time, bend its stem and angle its leaves towards the window. This slow, graceful movement is called phototropism, which simply means light turning. It is such a common phenomenon that we often take it for granted. But let us pause and consider the quiet miracle of it. The plant, without a brain or muscles, is perceiving the direction of the light source, and it is initiating a deliberate and coordinated movement to grow towards it. This is not a random act. It is a vital survival strategy. Light is the plant's food, and by orienting its leaves, its solar panels, towards the light, it is maximizing its ability to photosynthesize and create the energy it needs to live. This silent, graceful bending is the plant's most obvious form of sight. It is a slow-motion pursuit, a quiet and patient hunt for the light. It is the outward expression of a deep and constant internal awareness of the world of light around it, an awareness that is made possible by a hidden and beautiful biological mechanism. The secret to a plant's sight lies not in a single complex organ like an eye, but in a vast distributed network of light-sensing molecules called photoreceptors. These are special proteins, present in the cells throughout the plant, that have the unique ability to change their shape when they are struck by a particle of light. This change in shape is the first step in a quiet chemical conversation, a signal that is then passed through the cell, telling the plant about the quality and quantity of the light it is receiving. The photoreceptors responsible for the graceful bending towards the light are called phototropins, and they are most sensitive to blue light. At the very tip of a growing shoot, these phototropin molecules act like tiny, microscopic eyes. When blue light from a window strikes one side of the shoot tip, the phototropins on that side are activated. This activation triggers a signal that causes a growth hormone called auxin to migrate away from the light and accumulate on the shaded side of the stem. This auxin then acts as a growth accelerator, telling the cells on the dark side of the stem to elongate more quickly than the cells on the sunny side. This simple, uneven growth is what physically causes the stem to bend slowly and elegantly towards the window. It is a system of beautiful, silent efficiency. The plant sees the direction of the blue light with the tip of its shoot, and it moves towards it by controlling the growth of its stem. The plant is, in a very real sense, growing into the light, its entire body a living expression of its desire to be closer to its source of life. A plant's sense of sight is not just about finding the direction of the light. It is also about measuring the passage of time. Plants have a remarkably sophisticated ability to track the changing seasons, not by feeling the temperature, but by measuring the length of the day. This is called photoperiodism. The secret to this ability lies in another group of photoreceptors called phytochromes. These molecules are special because they are sensitive to red and far-red light, and they can exist in two different forms. Think of them as a tiny molecular light switch. When the phytochrome is hit by red light, which is abundant in sunlight, it switches to an on state. When it is hit by far-red light, which is more common at twilight or in the absence of light, it slowly reverts to an off state. During the day, most of the phytochrome switches are in the on position, but during the long, dark night, they slowly and steadily switch back to off. The plant can measure how many of its switches have flipped back to the off state, and this gives it a precise measurement of the length of the uninterrupted darkness. It is this measurement of the night, not the day, that tells a plant what time of year it is. A long night tells it that winter is approaching, and it is time to drop its leaves and go dormant. A short night tells it that summer is here, and it's time to pour its energy into flowering. It is a silent, beautiful, and incredibly accurate internal clock, governed by the gentle, daily flipping of these molecular switches. So, we can see that a plant's world of vision is very different from our own. It does not see images or shapes. Instead, it sees a world painted in different qualities and colours of light, particularly blue and red, and it uses this information to make fundamental life decisions. Blue light, as we have seen, is the primary signal for direction, telling the plant where to grow. It is the where signal. Red light, managed by the phytochrome system, is the primary signal for time and competition. It is the when signal, telling the plant when to flower or go dormant. But it also tells the plant if it is being shaded by another plant. A leaf absorbs red light for photosynthesis, but it allows far red light to pass through. So a plant that is growing in the shade of a taller neighbour will see a light that is poor in red light and rich in far red light. This specific light recipe is a clear signal that it is being outcompeted. In response, the phytochrome system will trigger a shade avoidance response, telling the plant to invest all its energy into growing a taller, thinner stem in a desperate race to reach the unfiltered sunlight above. A plant is in a constant, silent and dynamic visual conversation with its environment, reading the subtle language of the light and adjusting its own life story in response. And so, we can see that a plant's entire existence is choreographed by the light. The sun is its clock, its calendar, and its compass. Its sense of sight, this deep and pervasive sensitivity to the nuances of the light, governs almost every aspect of its life, from the first moment it germinates and reaches for the sky, to its decision to flower, to its final, graceful descent into winter dormancy. It is a beautiful and humbling thought that these silent green beings are such astute and sensitive astronomers. Their lives a slow and elegant dance in perfect time with the rhythms of the sun and the earth. Theirs is a world of pure, unfiltered perception, a life lived in complete and honest response to the light that gives it life. And having considered how a plant sees, it leads us to wonder about its other senses, and about the quiet, hidden network that it uses to process and respond to the world, a network that is, in its own way, just as complex as our own. A plant can sense the world around it with a quiet and subtle precision, but how does it transmit this information through its body and coordinate a response? This is the story of the plant's unseen nervous system, a slow, silent and distributed network of communication. There is a small, humble plant, native to the tropics, called Mimosa pudica. It is often known as the sensitive plant, or the touch-me-not, and it holds a beautiful secret. If you gently touch one of its delicate fern-like leaves, a remarkable thing happens. Within a few seconds, the tiny leaflets along the stem will fold gracefully inwards, and the entire leaf stalk will droop downwards, as if the plant is shyly closing in on itself. It is a swift and visible response. a rare moment when the slow world of the plant moves at a speed that we can easily perceive. This gentle, defensive reaction has long been a source of wonder. What is happening inside the plant to coordinate such a rapid and elegant movement? The answer is that the plant is sending a message. The touch of your finger is a piece of information that is detected by the cells in the leaf, and that information is then transmitted like a wave throughout the entire leaf structure. This act of communication, this sending of a signal from one part of the body to another, is the fundamental principle of a nervous system. The sensitive plant reveals to us, in a beautifully clear and gentle way, that plants possess the ability to communicate with themselves, a quiet and profound secret that is hidden within the stillness of all plant life. So what is the nature of this signal? How does the message travel? The secret of the sensitive plant's movement lies in a combination of electrical and chemical signals, a system that is surprisingly analogous to the nerve impulses in an animal. When a leaflet is touched, the mechanical pressure triggers tiny channels in the cell membranes to open, which causes a shift in the electrical charge of those cells. This creates a small wave of electrical activity, an action potential, that is very similar to the electrical signals that travel along our own nerves, just much, much slower. This electrical wave then propagates from cell to cell down the leaf stalk. As the signal reaches specialized, swollen structures at the base of the leaflets and the leaf stalk, called pulvini, it triggers a chemical response. The cells in these pulvini rapidly release a flood of charged potassium ions. This causes water to rush out of the cells via osmosis, and the cells suddenly lose their turgor, their internal water pressure. They become limp and saggy, and it is this sudden loss of pressure at the base of the leaf that causes it to fold and droop. It is a beautiful and ingenious hydraulic mechanism powered by a slow-moving electrical wave. And while the sensitive plant is a particularly dramatic example, scientists have discovered that all plants use these slow electrical signals to transmit information. A wound in one leaf, for example, can generate an electrical signal that travels throughout the entire plant, a silent internal alarm bell that tells the rest of the plant to prepare its defenses. It is an unseen, unheard, and deeply elegant nervous system. A quiet cascade of signals that allows the plant to function as a single, coordinated, and responsive whole. The sense of touch in the plant world can be even more sophisticated than a simple, immediate reaction. Let us consider for a moment the quiet and patient hunter of the bog, the Venus fly trap. Its trap is formed from two lobes of a modified leaf, fringed with sensitive trigger hairs. To avoid wasting energy by closing on a false alarm like a falling raindrop, the fly trap has developed a simple form of memory. A single touch to one of its trigger hairs will not cause the trap to spring. The plant registers the touch, but it waits. It remembers. If a second touch occurs within about 20 seconds, then, and only then, will the electrical signal be generated that causes the trap to snap shut. This ability to count and to remember is a remarkable adaptation. It ensures that the trap only closes when there is a good chance that a struggling insect, which would be likely to brush against multiple hairs, is present. It is a form of short-term memory, mediated by the slow build-up and decay of calcium ions within the cells of the leaf. It is a quiet and beautiful example of how plants can integrate information over time, making a calculated decision based not just on what is happening now, but on what has just happened a few moments before. A plant's sense of touch is not just for dramatic, rapid responses. It is also a part of a lifelong, quiet conversation with its environment. A tree that grows in a constantly windy location will be shorter, with a thicker, stronger trunk, than a tree of the same species that grows in a sheltered valley. This is not an accident. The tree is constantly feeling the touch of the wind, the gentle but persistent mechanical stress on its trunk and branches. This constant stimulation is a signal, a message from the environment that says you must be strong to survive here. In response to this message, the tree changes its pattern of growth, a process called thigmomorphogenesis. It diverts more of its energy into reinforcing its trunk, adding layers of strong, dense wood, and it grows less in height, keeping a lower profile to the wind. This is a slow, patient, and deeply intelligent response. The tree is not just passively resisting the wind, it is actively listening to it and remodeling its own body to be in better harmony with the forces of its world. It is a beautiful and quiet example of how a plant's sense of touch can shape its entire life, its very form a living record of the lifelong silent language it has spoken with the wind. We can see another beautiful example of this purposeful sense of touch in the quiet, questing movements of a climbing plant. The tendril of a pea plant or a grapevine is not growing randomly. As it elongates, it performs a slow, graceful, and continuous searching motion. It is feeling the air, exploring the space around it. When this questing tendril touches a solid object, a trellis, a branch, or a wall, it knows. The cells on the side of the tendril that make contact with the object send a signal to the rest of the tendril. In response, the tendril begins to coil gracefully and tightly around the support, a slow-motion embrace that secures the plant's upward path. It is a beautiful and purposeful act. The tendril is like a long, slow, and sensitive green finger, feeling its way through the world, searching for a hand to hold. It is another quiet testament to the fact that plants are not just passive inhabitants of their space. They are active and sensitive explorers of it. Their sense of touch, their primary tool for navigating and conquering their vertical world. As we conclude our exploration of this unseen nervous system, let us reflect on the beautiful and profound idea it presents. A plant is a body that can sense, communicate, and respond, all without a central brain. Its intelligence, as we have considered, is a distributed intelligence. There is no command center. Instead, the entire plant is a network. Information is gathered everywhere, and decisions are made everywhere. A root tip can make a decision about which way to grow, while a leaf is making a decision about how much to open its stomata. All part of a decentralized cooperative system. It is a different and perhaps more resilient model of being. It is a quiet reminder that a brain is not the only way to be intelligent, and that a nervous system is not the only way to be connected. The quiet world of plants is governed by a slow, gentle, and pervasive network of communication that allows it to function as a single, coordinated, and deeply intelligent whole. And having considered how a plant communicates with itself, it leads us to an even more astonishing wonder: the quiet and hidden ways in which plants communicate with each other. We have explored the secret world within a single plant. Now our journey takes us back down into the dark and silent soil to uncover one of the most beautiful and profound discoveries in modern biology. A hidden underground network that connects the entire forest in a quiet, living conversation. When we walk through a quiet forest, we see a collection of individual trees. There is the tall oak, the slender birch, the young maple sapling. We see them as separate, solitary individuals competing for light and space, but this is only the story that is visible to our eyes. Beneath our feet, in the rich, dark soil, a much deeper and more intricate story is unfolding, a story of connection and cooperation. The roots of these individual trees are not alone in the darkness. They are intimately and inextricably woven together with the fine, hair-like threads of a vast and ancient network of symbiotic fungi. These fungal threads are called mycelium, and they are the true hidden rulers of the forest soil. A single thimbleful of healthy forest soil can contain several miles of these microscopic gossamer threads. They form a vast, dense and interconnected web that permeates the entire forest floor, a living, breathing network that is far more extensive and complex than the root systems themselves. This fungal network is the biological infrastructure, the hidden, living internet of the forest, and it is through this incredible network that the trees, which appear so separate and silent above the ground, are in fact linked together in a single, vast and communicating community. This vast and intimate connection between the tree roots and the fungal threads is not a parasitic one. It is one of the most beautiful and ancient examples of symbiosis, a mutually beneficial partnership called a mycorrhiza, which literally means fungus root. It is a quiet and generous trade that has been happening for over 400 million years, since the very first plants moved onto the land. The tree, through the miracle of photosynthesis, is a master at creating sugar, the energy-rich food of life. The fungus, however, cannot photosynthesize, so it needs a source of carbon to live. The tree, in its generosity, will send down as much as 30% of the sugar it produces to its roots, and it will trade this precious sugar to the fungus. In return, the fungus, with its incredibly fine and vast network of mycelial threads, is a master at exploring the soil. Its tiny threads can penetrate into microscopic pores in the soil that the tree's thicker roots cannot reach. The fungus is incredibly efficient at absorbing water and essential minerals like phosphorus and nitrogen from the soil. It then trades these vital nutrients back to the tree. It is a perfect and beautiful partnership. The tree provides the energy, and the fungus provides the raw materials. The fungal threads act as a vast living extension of the tree's own root system, massively increasing its ability to drink from the earth. This quiet underground handshake, this silent and ancient pact of cooperation, is the foundational relationship that makes the entire forest possible. But here is the most wondrous part of the story. The fungal network does not just connect a single tree to the soil. The threads of a single fungal organism can connect to the roots of many different trees, even trees of different species. And so, the mycorrhizal network becomes a physical bridge, a direct, underground link between the individual trees of the forest. Scientists have come to call this the wood wide web. It is through these shared fungal connections that the forest becomes more than just a collection of individuals. It becomes a community. Through this hidden, living network, the trees can send signals to one another. If one tree is attacked by a pest, it can send a chemical warning signal through the fungal network to its neighbours, who can then begin to mount their own defences before the pest even arrives. It is a silent, underground alarm system, a network of whispers that warns of danger. Through this remarkable wood wide web, the trees can also share resources. A healthy, sun-drenched tree that is producing an excess of sugar can send that surplus through the network to a smaller, younger sapling that is struggling in the shade. The forest is literally feeding its own young. At the centre of these networks are often large, old and highly connected trees that scientists have nicknamed mother trees. These are the great wise elders of the forest. They are the central hubs of the network, connected to hundreds of other trees around them. They are particularly important in nurturing the next generation. A mother tree can recognise its own kin, its own seedlings, and it will preferentially send them the nutrients they need to get a start in life. It will even reduce its own root competition to give its offspring a better chance. But it doesn't just support its own. A mother tree will also help to support its neighbours, creating a healthier and more resilient community for all. It is a beautiful and profound discovery. It reframes our understanding of the forest from a place of ruthless competition to a place of deep and ancient cooperation, a complex and supportive society, all governed by the quiet, generous wisdom of these great mother trees. And so, as we conclude our journey beneath the forest floor, let us rest with this new and peaceful image. The forest is not a silent place. Beneath our feet, there is a constant, quiet hum of activity. There is a continuous, pulsing flow of nutrients, a silent exchange of information, a quiet conversation that connects the entire forest into a single, living, breathing superorganism. The wood wide web is the silent, beating heart of the forest, a hidden and beautiful testament to the power of connection, cooperation, and community in the natural world. It is a quiet reminder that the most important things in life are often the things that are hidden from our sight. And having considered this hidden, underground language, it inspires us to wonder what other, less tangible conversations might be happening in the quiet, sunlit world above. I will stop here once more, as this completes another set of chapters. I am ready to continue and complete the final chapters of the script whenever you are. Please confirm, of course. Here is the final part of the script completing our journey. We have emerged from the hidden, underground network of the forest to once again feel the gentle air on our skin. But now we can appreciate the air not just as a source of life-giving gas, but as a vast and invisible medium for another, equally astonishing kind of conversation, a silent symphony of scents. The air around us is never truly empty. It is a rich and complex soup of molecules, a flowing, invisible river that carries all manner of information. For us, with our relatively weak sense of smell, most of this information is lost, but for the world of plants and insects, the air is a constant source of news, a vast and whispering library of scents. Plants have been mastering the art of chemical communication for hundreds of millions of years. They are, in a very real sense, chemists of extraordinary skill. They can produce a vast and complex vocabulary of airborne chemical compounds, known as volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. Each one of these scents is a word, a specific message that is designed to be released on the breeze and perceived by another living thing. This is a form of communication that is silent, invisible, and incredibly efficient. A single scent molecule can travel a great distance, carrying a precise and vital piece of information. The symphony of scents that a plant releases is not a random perfume. It is a carefully curated and purposeful broadcast. It is a language of alarm, of invitation, of defence, and of seduction. To walk through a garden or a forest is to walk through the middle of a constant, complex, and beautiful conversation, one that is being spoken in a language of fragrant and volatile words that we're only just beginning to learn how to understand. Imagine a single quiet leaf on a tomato plant. A caterpillar begins to chew on its edge. The plant, feeling this wound, does not suffer in silence. It immediately begins to reconfigure its internal chemistry. It starts to produce a specific and complex blend of volatile organic compounds, a unique and fragrant perfume of distress. It then releases this scent, this silent, airborne scream into the surrounding air. This is not a generic scent of damage. It is a highly specific message. The chemical blend is so precise that it can communicate the exact species of caterpillar that is attacking it. This cry for help is a remarkable and active defense mechanism. The plant is not just passively accepting its fate, it is actively calling for help, sending a message of incredible detail and urgency out into the world. This scent is an alarm bell, a flare sent up from the silent green world, a quiet and desperate hope that someone somewhere is listening. And as we're about to discover, someone almost always is. This fragrant alarm call is one of the most beautiful and astonishing examples of a plant's ability to interact with and manipulate the world around it, a testament to the fact that its stillness is not a sign of helplessness, but a different and more subtle form of power. The first to hear this fragrant alarm call are often the plant's own neighbours. Other tomato plants downwind can perceive these airborne warning chemicals. Their leaves have specialised receptors that can detect these specific VOCs. When they receive this message, this news that a neighbour is under attack, they are not passive listeners. They immediately begin to prepare for a battle that has not yet reached them. In response to the warning scent, they ramp up their own internal defensive chemistry. They start producing the bitter toxic compounds that make their own leaves less palatable to hungry caterpillars. They are, in essence, eavesdropping on their neighbour's misfortune and using that information to arm themselves in advance. It is a beautiful example of a community-wide defence system. The first plant to be attacked sacrifices itself, in a way, for the good of the community, its silent, fragrant scream giving everyone else a chance to prepare. This airborne communication allows the entire plant community to respond to a threat in a coordinated and effective way, a silent and beautiful example of the old wisdom that to be forewarned is to be forearmed. But the plant's fragrant cry for help is not just intended for its own kind. It is also a highly specific and targeted call to an entirely different kingdom of life. The very same chemical scent that warns its neighbours is also a powerful attractant for predatory insects. A parasitic wasp, for example, hovering on the breeze can smell this specific caterpillar is eating this plant perfume from a great distance. For the wasp, this scent is a dinner bell. It follows the fragrant trail back to its source, where it finds the caterpillar that is damaging the plant. The wasp will then lay its eggs inside the body of the caterpillar. When the wasp larvae hatch, they will consume the caterpillar from the inside out. The plant, through its own sophisticated chemistry, has summoned a bodyguard. It has called in an airstrike on its own enemy. This is a stunningly complex three-way ecological interaction, a form of biological pest control that has been perfected over millions of years of coevolution. The plant is not just a passive victim. It is an active and incredibly sophisticated player in the complex web of life, using a silent, fragrant language to call for help from the most unlikely of allies. This fragrant language is not only used for defense, it is also the language of love and creation. The beautiful, sweet scent of a flower is not an accident, and it is not for our benefit. It is a purposeful and highly targeted advertisement. A flower needs to move its pollen from itself to another flower, but it cannot walk. So, it enlists the help of a mobile partner, a pollinator like a bee, a moth, or a butterfly. The scent of the flower is a specific and alluring invitation. It is a message that says, Here is a rich and sugary reward of nectar if you will just do me this small service. Different flowers produce different scents to attract different pollinators. The sweet, delicate scents of many daytime flowers are designed to attract bees, while the heavy, heady, and often intoxicating scents of night-blooming flowers, like jasmine or moonflower, are designed to be carried on the cool night air to attract moths. The scent is a promise, a beacon in the air, a fragrant and beautiful contract between the stationary and the mobile, a quiet and essential partnership that is responsible for the creation of most of the fruits and seeds on Earth. And so, as we conclude our exploration of this symphony of scents, let us rest with a new appreciation for the air around us. It is not an empty space, it is a library. It is filled with a constant stream of fragrant messages, a silent, invisible, and incredibly complex conversation. There are whispers of warning, calls for help, and sweet invitations. It is a language that connects plant to plant and plant to insect. It is a language that we are only just beginning to decipher, but its beauty and its complexity are a profound and humbling reminder of the intricate and interconnected web of life that surrounds us. Every time you smell the sweet scent of a flower, or the fresh green smell of a newly mown lawn, which is in fact the grass's alarm call, you are catching a single beautiful word in this ancient and perfumed language of life. We have heard the plant's cry for help and its sweet song of invitation. Now, let us turn our attention inward to the quiet, internal fortress of the plant and explore the slow, patient and incredibly powerful ways it defends itself from a world that wishes to eat it. The first line of a plant's defense is its physical form, its silent, passive armor. Think of the thick, rugged bark of an old oak tree. It is a fortress wall, a shield against insects, fungi, and physical damage. Think of the sharp, menacing thorns of a rosebush or the prickly spines of a cactus. They are silent swords and spears, a clear and unambiguous warning to any soft-mouthed herbivore to stay away. Think of the tough, waxy coating on a holly leaf, or the tiny, irritating hairs that cover a nettle. These are all forms of passive defense, structural adaptations that make the plant a more difficult and less pleasant meal. They are the plant's first and most obvious answer to the problem of being a stationary and apparently helpless source of food. But this physical armour as formidable as it may be, is only the outer wall of the fortress. The true, hidden defence of the plant lies in a much more subtle and far more complex eternal arsenal. For hundreds of millions of years, plants have been in a silent, slow-motion evolutionary arms race with the creatures that eat them, and their primary weapon in this war has been chemistry. Every plant is a master chemist, capable of producing an astonishingly complex array of defensive compounds. This is the science of secondary metabolites. While primary metabolites are the basic building blocks of life, like sugars and proteins, these secondary compounds are the plant's specialized chemical weapons. One of the most common of these are the tannins. These are the compounds that give a strong cup of tea its dry, astringent taste. In a leaf, tannins bind to the proteins in an animal's digestive system, making the leaf difficult or impossible to digest. The plant is essentially making itself unnutritious. Then there are the alkaloids, a vast and powerful group of compounds that includes many of our most famous poisons and medicines, like caffeine, nicotine, morphine, and strychnine. For the plant, these are powerful neurotoxins designed to disrupt the nervous system of any insect or animal that eats them. A small dose might be a deterrent, while a larger dose can be lethal. Plants can also produce compounds that mimic the hormones of the insects that eat them, disrupting their growth and development. They can produce sticky latex-like saps, like that of the milkweed, that can gum up the mouthparts of a caterpillar. The sheer diversity of this chemical arsenal is breathtaking. The quiet, peaceful-looking plant world is in fact the most sophisticated and productive chemical factory on the planet, and its silent, constant work is a testament to the patient and incredibly creative art of slow chemical defense. A plant's chemical defenses are not always active. Producing these complex toxins is very energetically expensive, so a plant doesn't want to be in a constant state of high alert. This is where the airborne warning signals we have already explored become so important. When a plant receives a chemical warning from a neighbour that a pest is in the area, it doesn't always switch on its full defensive arsenal immediately. Instead, it primes its system. Think of it like a quiet internal military alert. The plant gets its defensive factories ready to go. It moves the necessary enzymes into place. It prepares the raw materials. It is ready, but it is not yet fully engaged. Then, if and when the attack comes, because its system is already primed, it can mount a much faster and much stronger defensive response than it would have otherwise. This ability to be primed is a beautiful example of the plant's quiet efficiency. It allows it to save energy during times of peace, but to be ready for battle at a moment's notice. It is a form of proactive defense, a quiet and intelligent preparation based on the news it has heard on the wind. This constant back and forth between the plant's chemical defenses and the herbivore's ability to overcome them is one of the great engines of evolution. For every new toxic compound a plant evolves, an insect or animal will, over many generations, evolve a way to detoxify it. The monarch butterfly caterpillar, for example, is a specialist that feeds exclusively on milkweed. It has evolved the ability to not only tolerate the toxic milky sap of the milkweed, but to actually store those toxins in its own body, which in turn makes the caterpillar and the adult butterfly toxic and unpalatable to its own predators. This is co-evolution in action. The plant develops a new defense, and the herbivore develops a new offense. This forces the plant to invent an even newer defense, and so on, in a silent, patient, and never-ending battle that plays out over millions of years. This quiet chemical arms race is one of the primary reasons for the incredible biodiversity we see in both the plant and the insect kingdoms. It is a beautiful and powerful reminder that much of the complexity and wonder of the natural world is born from a quiet and ancient struggle. As we conclude our look at the plant's slow defense, let us rest with a sense of deep appreciation for its resilience. A plant cannot run. It cannot hide. It cannot fight with tooth and claw. And yet, it is one of the most successful and enduring forms of life on this planet. It survives by being a fortress. It survives by being a master chemist. It survives by being a quiet and intelligent listener. It meets the challenges of its world not with movement, but with growth, with patience, and with a deep and profound chemical wisdom. Its stillness is not a weakness. It is the very source of its unique and patient strength. It is a quiet and powerful lesson in the art of resilience, a beautiful testament to the strength that can be found in a life that is lived, quietly and bravely, in a single place. We have seen how plants can respond to the world in the present moment, but their intelligence is not just reactive. Plants have a deep and profound connection to the passage of time, an ability to remember the past in order to prepare for the future. This is the story of how plants remember. Let us imagine a cold, quiet day in the middle of winter. A deciduous tree stands bare against a grey sky, seemingly lifeless. But if we look closely at its branches, we can see the small, tightly sealed buds that hold the promise of next spring's leaves and flowers. These buds are in a state of deep dormancy, a form of suspended animation. But they are also vessels of memory. The bud knows that it must not open now, even if there is a freak warm spell in the middle of winter. To open now would be a fatal mistake, as the tender new leaves would be killed by the next frost. The bud must wait. It must wait until it is absolutely certain that winter has passed and spring has truly arrived. To do this, the bud and the tree it is a part of must have a way of remembering the winter. It needs to keep a record of the long, cold period it has endured as a way of ensuring it does not awaken too soon. This quiet, patient waiting is a form of wisdom, a deep and ancient knowledge of the seasons that is written not in a brain, but in the very cells of the plant itself. The mechanism by which many plants remember the winter is a process called vernalization, which simply means the making of spring. It is a beautiful and complex form of cellular memory. Many plants, including winter wheat and many flowering trees, have a genetic break that actively prevents them from flowering. This break is a protein that sits on their DNA and blocks the genes that are responsible for creating flowers. For this break to be released, the plant must experience a prolonged period of cold. The cold temperatures trigger slow, gradual, and stable chemical change in the proteins that surround the DNA. It is like a slow molecular countdown timer. As the cold weeks of winter pass, the break is slowly and steadily silenced. The important thing is that this change is stable. When the warm weather of spring finally arrives, the break remains off. The plant now has a memory of the cold it has passed through. The cold itself does not make the plant flower, but it is the essential remembered prerequisite. The cold is what gives the plant the permission to flower, but it will still wait for the second signal, the long warm days of spring, before it finally commits to the act of creation. It is a beautiful two-factor safety system, a quiet and intelligent mechanism that ensures the plant's most precious act, the act of reproduction, is perfectly timed with the arrival of the gentle and life-giving spring. By combining these two abilities, the memory of the cold, vernalization, and the ability to measure the length of the night, photoperiodism, a plant can create an incredibly accurate internal calendar. The memory of the cold tells it that winter has happened. It is the turning of the great annual page. The subsequent measurement of the lengthening days and shortening nights then tells the plant precisely where it is in the new spring season. This allows for the beautiful and predictable sequence of blooming that we see every year. The crocuses and the snowdrops, which require less of a cold period and respond to the very first lengthening of the days, bloom first. Then come the daffodils and the tulips, and then the great flowering trees, like the cherries and the magnolias, which have been patiently remembering the winter and waiting for the perfect, warm, sun-drenched days of mid-spring to finally burst forth in their breathtaking and glorious display. Each one is following its own unique internal schedule. a silent and ancient calendar that is written in the language of light and the memory of the cold. How does a plant cell create a memory that can last for months? The secret lies in a fascinating field of biology called epigenetics. If DNA is the instruction manual for life, epigenetics is like a set of sticky notes or bookmarks that are placed on the pages of that manual. These epigenetic marks don't change the words in the book, but they change how the book is read. They can tell the cell to read one chapter more often or to ignore another chapter completely. The process of vernalization, of remembering the cold, is an epigenetic one. The long period of cold causes special enzymes to place chemical bookmarks on the proteins that surround the flowering break gene. These bookmarks essentially tell the cell's machinery to ignore this page. And the remarkable thing is that when a cell divides, it makes a perfect copy not just of the DNA, but of all these epigenetic bookmarks as well. This is how the memory is passed on from cell to cell, and how it can remain stable for the entire winter and spring. It is a quiet and beautiful form of cellular inheritance, a way for the plant to pass down a memory of an experience, a memory of the season, a quiet and profound secret that is held in the silent chemical language of the cell. And so, as we conclude our reflection on the memory of plants, let us rest with a sense of wonder for this quiet and patient wisdom. A plant's ability to remember the past is the key to its successful navigation of the future. It is a wisdom that is based on waiting, on patience, and on trusting the deep and ancient rhythms of the seasons. It is a beautiful and gentle reminder that not all intelligence is about fast processing and quick reactions. There is a deep and profound intelligence in stillness, in patience, and in the quiet. Cellular memory of the winter that has passed, which is the very thing that makes the glorious and hopeful blossoming of the spring possible. Having remembered the past and waited for the perfect moment in the present, the plant now turns its energy to its ultimate purpose, the creation of the future. This is the story of the seed, a tiny, patient vessel of hope on its first and greatest journey. The flower, in all its breathtaking beauty, is a fleeting thing. Its soft petals, its vibrant colours, and its sweet scent are all a temporary and glorious display. But its beauty is not its purpose. Its beauty is a means to an end. The final and ultimate purpose of the flower is to create a seed. After the quiet and magical act of pollination, after a grain of pollen has been delivered by the wind or a gentle bee, the flower's work is done. Its petals wither and fall, its colours fade. All of its remaining energy is now diverted to its final and most important task, to nourish the tiny, developing embryo at its heart and to build around it the perfect vessel for its journey into the future. The fruit that swells, the pod that forms, the cone that hardens, these are all the final maternal acts of the plant, the creation of a safe and nourishing home for the next generation. The flower's brief and beautiful life is not an endpoint. It is the graceful and essential gateway to the plant's ultimate dream, the dream of immortality, which is held in the small and silent promise of a seed. A single seed is a masterpiece of natural engineering, a self-contained and perfectly equipped little astronaut, ready for a long and perilous journey. Let us quietly consider its architecture. On the outside there is the seed coat, a tough protective layer that shields the precious cargo within from physical damage, from drying out, and from being digested by animals. Inside this protective shell, there is the embryo itself, a tiny, miniature and dormant plant with the first embryonic leaves, stem and root already formed. It is a complete plant in waiting, a perfect blueprint of the life to come, and packed all around this tiny sleeping embryo is its food supply, the endosperm. This is a rich and starchy package of nutrients, a packed lunch that will provide all the energy the embryo will need to germinate and to push its first leaves up into the sun before it is able to start photosynthesizing for itself. The seed is, therefore, a perfect and self-sufficient life support system. It is a living creature in a state of profound and patient slumber. It is a time capsule, holding the genetic legacy of its parent, and it is a spaceship carrying that legacy into the future. Its design is a testament to the quiet, patient, and incredibly sophisticated ingenuity of the plant world. A tiny, perfect vessel of hope. Once the seed is created, it must embark on its first great journey. It must travel away from its parent plant to find its own small patch of earth, its own place in the sun. One of the most ancient and elegant ways to travel is on the wind. Plants have evolved an incredible array of beautiful and ingenious structures to help their seeds take flight. Think of the fluffy white parachute of a dandelion seed, which can carry it for miles on a gentle breeze. Think of the delicate spinning helicopters of a maple seed, which slow its descent and allow the wind to carry it far from the shade of its parent tree. Think of the tiny dust-like seeds of an orchid, so light that they can be carried for hundreds of miles in the upper atmosphere. This is the art of passive flight, of letting go and trusting the power of the wind. It is a silent and beautiful exodus, a great, invisible river of seeds that is constantly flowing through the air around us, each one a tiny, hopeful traveller in search of a new home. If the wind is not an option, many plants have evolved clever and ingenious ways to use the animal world as their transportation service. Some seeds are hitchhikers. Think of the small, spiky burrs that get caught in your socks or in the fur of a passing animal. The plant is using the animal's mobility to carry its seeds to new locations, a small and temporary inconvenience for the animal, but a vital journey for the seed. Other plants use a more enticing strategy: bribery. The sweet, fleshy, also a nutritious fruit that surrounds a seed is not a gift to us. It is a payment. The plant wraps its tough, indigestible seed in a delicious and attractive package. An animal, like a bird or a mammal, is tempted by the fruit and eats it. The seed then passes, unharmed, through the animal's digestive system to be deposited far from the parent plant in its own small pile of convenient fertilizer. It is a brilliant and highly effective strategy, a quiet and clever contract between the plant and animal kingdoms. The journey of a seed does not always end when it lands on the ground. For many seeds, this is just the beginning of a long and patient wait. The soil beneath our feet is a vast and living library of dormant seeds, a seed bank that holds the potential for future forests and meadows. Many seeds have built-in dormancy mechanisms that prevent them from germinating immediately. Some need to be scratched or broken, a process called scarification, which might happen in the gut of an animal. Some need to be exposed to the smoke from a fire, and many, as we have seen, need to experience the long, cold memory of winter before they will awaken. This ability to wait is one of the seed's greatest superpowers. Seeds have been found, buried in the Arctic permafrost, that were still viable after 30,000 years. This long, patient sleep is a strategy of incredible resilience. It allows the plant to survive through periods of drought, of cold, or of darkness, its children sleeping safely in the earth, waiting for the world to become hospitable once again. And so, as we conclude our reflection on the journey of the seed, let us see it for what it truly is, an act of profound and beautiful hope. The creation and dispersal of a seed is the plant's ultimate investment in the future. It is a quiet and certain faith that even after the parent plant has withered and died, life will continue. It is a gentle and powerful act of letting go, of entrusting the next generation to the wind, to the water, to the kindness of passing animals, and to the patient embrace of the soil. Every single plant, every single tree that we see, began its life as one of these tiny, hopeful travellers. And as the growing season comes to an end, and the plant world prepares for its own long, quiet sleep, it is this legacy of seeds, scattered across the landscape and sleeping in the earth, that holds the silent, certain promise of the spring to come. Our journey through the secret life of plants is drawing to a close. We have followed the plant through its awakening, its growth, its quiet conversations, and its creation of a legacy. Now, we will accompany it on its final, graceful journey of the year, the gentle descent into winter slumber. There is a quiet and poignant beauty in the autumn. The air grows crisp, the light grows golden, and the deciduous trees prepare for their long winter rest. The most visible sign of this preparation is the glorious and gentle transformation of their leaves. The brilliant colours of autumn, the fiery reds, the glowing oranges, the golden yellows, are not a sign of death, but a sign of a slow, deliberate, and incredibly efficient process of letting go. Throughout the spring and summer, the leaves have been dominated by the green pigment of chlorophyll, the solar panels of the tree. But as the days grow shorter and the nights grow colder, the tree receives its signal that it is time to prepare for winter. It begins to systematically dismantle its precious chlorophyll molecules, to break them down into their component parts and reabsorb the valuable nutrients, like nitrogen, back into the woody tissues of its branches and trunk to be stored for next spring. As the dominant green of the chlorophyll fades away, the other pigments that have been in the leaf all along are finally revealed. The yellows and oranges, the carotenoids which were masked by the green, now shine through. The brilliant reds and purples, the anthocyanins, are actively produced by the tree in the cool, sunny days of autumn, perhaps acting as a final sunscreen for the leaf as it completes its work. This beautiful display of colour is the visible sign of a graceful and orderly retreat, a quiet and prudent act of conservation, as the tree gently and wisely lets go of the parts of itself it can no longer sustain through the long, dark winter. Once the leaves have fallen, the tree, and indeed most of the perennial plants in a temperate climate, will enter a state of deep and profound rest called dormancy. This is not simply a passive response to the cold. It is an active and highly regulated physiological state, a form of suspended animation that has been perfected over millions of years. It is a state of deep, internal quiet. The plant's metabolism, the engine of its life, slows to an almost imperceptible crawl. The flow of sap in its veins almost ceases. Growth stops completely. The plant is, in essence, holding its breath for the entire winter. This state of dormancy is controlled by a complex interplay of hormones. As the days shorten, the production of growth-promoting hormones ceases, and the production of growth-inhibiting hormones like abscisic acid increases. This is the chemical signal that tells every cell in the plant that it is time to shut down, to conserve energy, and to wait. To survive the freezing temperatures, the plant also engages in a form of natural antifreeze. It increases the concentration of sugars in its cells, which lowers the freezing point of the water within them, preventing the formation of sharp, destructive ice crystals. It is a quiet and incredibly sophisticated strategy of survival. A deep and patient slumber that allows the plant to endure the harshest and most barren of seasons, holding its life force in a state of quiet and perfect stillness, waiting for the distant, remembered promise of the spring. Let us now imagine the quiet and peaceful scene of a winter forest. A thick, soft blanket of snow covers the ground, muffling all sound. The bare branches of the trees are dark against the pale winter sky. The world is still. It is a scene of profound and beautiful peace. And as we rest here, in our own warm and comfortable space, we can feel a deep and gentle connection to this sleeping landscape. The world of the plants, the world that was so full of the quiet activity of growth and communication just a few months ago, is now in a state of deep and restful slumber. The saplings and the wildflowers are sleeping beneath the snow. The great trees are dreaming their long, slow, woody dreams. It is a perfect mirror of our own nightly journey. Just as we must let go of the day and descend into the quiet peace of sleep to restore our bodies and our minds, so too must the plant world let go of the year and descend into this deep restorative slumber. It is a necessary and beautiful part of the cycle of life, a time of profound and healing rest. Even in this deep and seemingly lifeless slumber, the plant is not dead. deep within its woody tissues, in the patient cells of its roots and its trunk, a tiny, almost imperceptible pulse of life continues. The engine of the metabolism is turning over at its lowest possible speed, using the stored reserves of sugar to just barely keep the essential machinery of life ticking over. The plant is still aware of its world. Its dormant buds are still quietly measuring the length of the cold, still keeping their long and patient memory of the winter. It is a state of profound and deep potential, a life force held in a perfect and patient stillness. It is the quiet and certain knowledge that this sleep, however deep and long, is not an end. It is a pause. It is a necessary and beautiful stillness that holds within it the powerful and unstoppable promise of the spring to come. It is a quiet and gentle reminder that even in the deepest silence and the most profound stillness, the pulse of life is always there, waiting. And so, we conclude our journey with this image of the quiet, sleeping and hopeful world of plants. We have seen that their stillness is not emptiness, but a deep and patient form of life. We have learned that they see, feel, and communicate in ways that are both silent and profound. And we have witnessed their graceful descent into a slumber that so beautifully mirrors our own. Just as the sleeping plant holds the certain promise of its own spring awakening, so too does our own nightly rest hold the promise of a new morning. The cycle of rest and renewal is one of the most fundamental and beautiful rhythms of the universe, and as you now allow yourself to drift deeper and deeper into your own quiet slumber, you can do so with the peaceful and reassuring knowledge that you are a part of this ancient and beautiful cycle, a gentle and necessary letting go that is, in itself, the quiet and certain promise of a new day. As the silent sleeping forest rests under the winter moon, so too is it now time for your own quiet rest. We have wandered through a hidden world tonight, seeing the patient intelligence in a root, the quiet alchemy in a leaf, and the hopeful promise in a seed. We have learned that the stillness of the plant world is not an absence of life, but a deep and gentle presence. The very air you are breathing now is the quiet exhalation of this green and growing world, a constant, gentle connection between their life and yours. As you let go of my voice, you can feel yourself as part of this great peaceful rhythm. You have my full permission to release the day, to let your thoughts drift away like seeds on the wind, and to descend into the deep and nourishing soil of your own slumber. There is nothing left to do now but to rest. Sleep well. Thank you for spending this quiet time with us at Midnight Wanderer. If you feel ready for sleep, there is no need to do anything at all. But if you find yourself awake another night, perhaps you might enjoy a gentle journey into the deep and silent oceans, or a quiet float through the vast and starry cosmos. Until then, may your rest be deep and your dreams be peaceful.